should all have it, and I sent it out multiple times to everybody, but.
Mark, you all set?
So we don't need anybody on any committees?
Huh?
Do we have vacancies? If we have needs on any committees right now?
I'll tell you in a minute.
Well, we've already had expulsion has already met.
I'm about to open the Norwich Board of Education meeting on Tuesday, January the 11th, 2022. Miss Christine, could you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Christine. Public comment. Do we have anybody here for public comment?
We have Jessica Quay signed up.
I'm sorry?
Jessica Quay signed up.
Me.
Jessica,
Hello.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
All right. Jessica Quay, 321 Old Canterbury Turnpike in Norwich. Good evening, Board of Ed members. Welcome to the new year and your first full year of being the driving force behind a successful superintendent and a successful school year for NPS. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of my children who attend Moriarty School. I want to formally get a couple points addressed to you. I feel strongly that this Board of Ed team can accomplish some great things this year. I'm confident that you can have some difficult conversations and hopefully take some constructive criticism from the parents of this town that have opinions. There was a brief comment from Mr. Alday at the December meeting about the personnel records of staff who've left the district. I would like to make a suggestion that the Board of Ed begin conducting exit interviews from staff members who decide to leave. There have been rumors that this is not the end of the Great Resignation. The thing with the Great Resignation is that these teachers are not leaving to go to work for someone else, or that these teachers are leaving to go work for someone else. They're not leaving to become yoga instructors in California and find their zen. There's something wrong with our district, and we haven't seen the past board actively try to figure out what that is. We want to hear you guys ask questions that may be uncomfortable and difficult. So many times there is an opportunity for discussion and nobody speaks up. We want you to speak up. We want you to get the answers of the people that the people are asking you to get. If I'm not mistaken, you all signed up to be the voices of our children and have a pretty huge part in making sure that this district is run the way that it's supposed to run. One of you is a teacher on the board at a school completely different from NPS. I really think that that would bring a great perspective to this board, being that there's a teacher on it. You have some valuable opinions, and I think that they would be well received. Hold on, I'm just scrolling. I also wish that you guys were open to hearing issues from teachers and staff and parents in a more direct way, whether that's sending out surveys, to have direct feedback, to bring issues to your attention a little bit easier, having public forums where you can still abide by your rules, but also form conversation with the parents of this city. We worked with the last board about raising issues in the past couple months, and it seemed like we had to jump through 50 hoops to get anything actually accomplished. But yet we see other towns and cities around us in the same state achieving things at much faster rates. Welcome to your new pastime. I'm sure it's not easy work, but we look forward to seeing some positive changes in our school. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for public comment? Is there anyone else for public comment? And is there anyone else for public comment? Hearing none, I declare public comment closed. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of the Board of Education meeting, December 14th, 2021. I will now entertain a motion from the board. So moved by Greg Perry. Is there a second? Second by Kevin Saitani. Are there any discussions, omissions, and/or corrections? Mark?
Yes, I see a correction on the last page where it says board reports, just before the motion to adjourn. The last line, it says current vacancies on man of the board committees. It should be many as opposed to man. Thank you.
Any other further discussions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Next item on the agenda is a report of the chairperson. The chairperson has one small item, and that is the 2021-2023 members' assignments and vacancies to many of our schools and positions, subcommittees, and committees is done and will be posted shortly thereafter by our IT department. Am I correct? Yes. Thank you, Kristen. All right. Report of the superintendent.
Thank you. The first item that I'd like to point out is the Key Is Me Award recipient. It is a physical education teacher at Mahan, Nicholas Murphy, and the rationale that accompanied his nomination is that he is extraordinarily creative and enthusiastic and organized. Students are able to actively and happily participate in phys ed classes while adhering to the expectations he has clearly set. PE class with Nick is like visiting a new carnival every time that his students come to class. One can observe endless smiles, laughter, and fun. Thank you for all you do, and congratulations to Mr. Murphy. The I Make a Difference Support Staff Award recipient for January is Moriarty School paraeducator Rebecca Rivas. This professional is the definition of someone who makes a difference. She is tasked with working one-on-one with some students that have challenging concerns in the building. Rebecca shows up day in and day out with a smile and a can-do attitude, a friendly word for everyone that she comes across throughout the day. She takes a keen interest in her students and their likes and dislikes and helps to create materials and tools that personalize her students' learning experience. The relationships she builds with her students allows her to make each student she works with even more successful. She is quick to point out when students are doing the right things and offers immediate praise and feedback. Rebecca constantly goes above and beyond to ensure that all of the students at Moriarty have the best experiences possible. She is most deserving of this award. Congratulations, Rebecca. And the You Inspire Me award went to Felix Rodriguez, who is a 7th grade student at Global Studies Magnet School. The support for this nomination was submitted by his science teacher, Ms. Bouchard, and she speaks to this. I would like to nominate Felix Rodriguez. He is a 7th grade student at Teachers. He is a dedicated young man that values his education. He arrived at Teachers a few years ago and started learning English as a second language. Since the first day of school, he is always learning, asking questions, challenging himself with materials that are not in his native language. As this academic year provided students with in-person instruction, Felix has always been present and participated in class, in lessons, and assignments. An aspect that is remarkable of Felix is that he is dedicated to his education by using the strategies learned to seek the information he needs to complete assignments, create posters, add captions to videos, and translate the materials that he needs and wants to read. English as his second language has not been an impairment to his education. It has been a way to be resourceful and creative. Congratulations to Felix for all his accomplishments. He has such a bright future ahead of him. Congratulations. I've also given you the COVID report, and so you can see the partially vaccinated and fully vaccinated student report by school. These are the vaccination cards that the parents have willingly submitted to the school nurses. We've also seen a significant jump in our weekly COVID data, which started out with 9 positives the first 2 weeks of school, and then started inching their way forward up into the 30s on our 14th week of school. And last week, 138 positive cases, 41 staff, 97 students. And this week, as of this afternoon, 85 positive cases, 17 staff, and 68 students. I've also listed the COVID rates in Norwich. This week, 151.5% positivity, the highest we've seen in this pandemic. And the significant changes to the COVID protocol for staff and students, mirroring the CDC guidelines. The exception to that is that Connecticut has not aligned with the definition of fully vaccinated, meaning that you need to be boosted. They are still keeping with the last shot 2 weeks after the last vaccine in the series. And we continue to wear masks, maintain social distancing, and we have students present in school right now. I've also put in my events that attended and upcoming meetings to align with any of your calendars or meetings that you're looking for, and that concludes my report tonight. If there are any questions.
Yeah, I have a few.
Okay.
Do we have any indication or thoughts about how many students? Oh, yeah, thank you. This is Greg Perry. Do we have any indication or thoughts about how many students have turned in their cards? Are these numbers accurate? What's our margin of error?
So I don't know what our margin of error is. I know that at the beginning of the year, they weren't accurate because we had not entered in the students at Global and Kelly that I know were vaccinated because I was running those clinics. And so I think the nurses are doing the best that they can. Parents are not compelled to send the information in. It does help our nurses and it helps our principals when they are notifying parents, if their child has been exposed at school. But we liken it to any other part of your health record, but certainly parents have the right to withhold that if they don't want to send it to school.
And it's certainly easier for the staff when you don't have to be asking, are you vaccinated, who's vaccinated, so because the rules are different.
Right. And,
Right.
and a lot of this happens for our principals and our nursing staff, particularly our nurse director, at night and on the weekend. And so they don't have to, go to the same lengths of quarantining that they did before the new guidance came out, but it's certainly helpful to know the level of risk and how urgently they need to get in touch with that parent. We are still always getting in touch with the parent, but it's really helpful. And so we're grateful to those who have been willing to comply.
Thank you. And then were you going to say something? Okay, I'm certainly curious, I'm sure like everybody else, just about the staff situation that we have in Norwich. I've heard things secondhand. I had one specific question, which was how is testing be accomplished for a staff member who's out or sick? Do they have to come in to get a quick test, or is there ability for someone to get one to them?
Sure.
Like, what's the process for that?
So, good questions. We have received a shipment of some tests and N95 masks. 2 N95 masks were sent out to every staff member before the Monday that we returned to school. So that morning, they could come and get them if they wanted to. They're not required, they don't have to wear them. We have been given a small supply of tests, and originally, we thought that more would be coming, and we would be able to hand them out to teachers, 1 or 2 boxes apiece. We didn't get enough to hand out to even 1 teacher or staff member each. And so we believe more are coming. We know that the community EMT folks are distributing to families and students. But at this point, the nursing director and our central office team and I met to say, we need to make these available for kids and our staff members. What is the easiest way to do that? We have a CLIA waiver, a testing waiver, that we used to administer Binex tests early in the pandemic. Not every school department had that ability. So each nurse's office has adequate tests for symptomatic students and staff members. If children or staff members are experiencing symptoms, they can test before they leave for the day. They can come to the school, and the nurse or administrator can meet them in the parking lot. We've driven them to houses. They really should get in touch with their principal by email or text, and we'll make whatever arrangements the parent or staff member needs to accommodate them. But we are not at the point where we have enough to hand out to people. Hopefully that will be soon.
Hopefully, thank you.
Christine DeStasio. I was just wondering if you've gotten any response yet from the email that you sent out earlier.
No.
That you made us all aware of.
Not yet. I don't expect I will, but, you know.
So this week appears to be a little bit better than last week as far as staffing issues go?
I actually apologize, I didn't respond to that part of Mr. Perry's question. It's been uneven, not good. And so every night before we go to sleep, the administrators and I calibrate where the vacancies or unfilled positions are. And then we've deployed our floater subs to different buildings in some cases. We've deployed myself, Tamara, Jamie, the central office folks, instructional coaches, everyone we have. And so depending upon where the need is, people have been very, very flexible, and we're extremely appreciative of that. We have principals who've had COVID, we have nurses who've had COVID, certainly teachers and paras and custodians, every employee group that we have. And it doesn't necessarily, it's not even per building, it's not clustered in a way that's predictable. And so we've just had to, take a look at the data the night before, hopefully, and our staff have been really, really great about if they're not feeling well, don't come in. Please notify us as soon as you possibly can so that we can ensure coverage. And every day since January 3rd, we've had to consider, should we close today? And so Ms. DeStasio was referring to correspondence that I sent to the commissioner, just letting them know that on a daily basis, we could be anywhere from 10% to 30% of staff absence, and it depends on which staff are absent. So if you have all of your Strive program paras and your principal and nurse, that's going to be considerably different than if I have a couple of folks in my office, different. So all employees matter, certainly, but not everybody can cover for everyone else. You certainly don't want me covering for the nurse. And so we have been able to open every day, but it's been a struggle, and it's really having a significant effect on our staff's ability to continue and sustain that. They're tired. So I've been asking if we as superintendents can be permitted to have 5 or 10 remote learning days that we can use should there be an emergency staffing situation, so that we wouldn't have to cancel school and make the day up in June. I'm certainly not more in favor of remote learning than I am in-person learning, but I won't be able to have school if it presents as something that is unsustainable or unsafe.
All right, and did you have anything, Josh? Okay, go ahead.
Josh Chapman here. I just had one question in regards to the N95 masks that you talked about. Seeing as how we are attempting to follow the CDC guidelines, are they going to be available to parents and, well, students, rather?
Interesting that you mentioned that. So for parents, yes, the community, we received our supply of N95 masks and tests from the EMT director. We picked them up at the fire station, the fire headquarters. The fire headquarters has supplies that they have been sending out to community members. So parents and students would get those supplies from EMS, is the deployment plan for the state of Connecticut. However, these, to my knowledge, have not come in child size. So just today, I asked Patrick McCormick, the UNCUS health director, it doesn't feel quite right to me to be walking around in a school with one of these on when children don't have them. Are they coming for children? Not that we would require children to wear them, but we should offer them, in my opinion. And so I don't know the answer to that, but Patrick did say that if we wanted to purchase some, we could. So now I'm trolling the internet trying to see, are they available? And before I bought, 9,000 of these, perhaps a survey to parents to see if that's really what they want their child to wear, or if their child is more comfortable in their Spider-Man mask or in their, surgical mask. So that occurred to me today, and it hasn't been a topic of discussion that I've been involved in at the state level or the regional level yet.
And I have one other thing. I know it's probably difficult to relive this, but could you talk briefly about your day from Hades on Thursday, where we had incidents at 3 different schools?
It's always a
could-
joy in the Norwich Public Schools. It's
That's
never-
mainly for the parents out there and concerns that they might have.
Sure. And I think that Bob has a little bit of this in his report, but on Thursday, at the Veterans Elementary School, if you're not a Veterans Elementary School parent or a staff member, you may not know this. One of our maintenance staff was changing a light ballast in the gymnasium/cafeteria, and on his way down, they use a lift to go safely to very high areas in the gym. The end of the lift clipped the water fire sprinkler system, and the sprinklers went off. It shorted out the lift, so he couldn't get down to turn the sprinklers off, and it flowed until someone else turned it off. And the fire departments, Laurel Hill and the Center City Fire Departments responded. They were amazing. We sent them a thank you note on Friday for their efforts, their speed, their responsiveness. They suggested that the children evacuate to our evacuation center. I rolled buses to the students because it was very cold out and some left without their jackets. And they waited on buses. It seemed like an eternity, but it was probably 45 minutes. We messaged from central office and at the scene in the school, we messaged the parents to let them know we've evacuated, everyone is safe, it's not a fire, the fire department is here. There was a lot of water in the gymnasium. They squeegeed it and vacuumed it, and it really went away quite quickly. So we were able to bring students back. If you're familiar with veterans, it's the same footprint as Mahan. The upper elementary wing was completely dry up until about the restrooms. After the restrooms where the social worker's office is, there were some puddles. And then the same on the other part of the H, if you will. It's the center of the hallways, the nurse's office, the staff, cafeteria. that were very wet, but the fire personnel cleaned up the nurse's office and staff lunchroom so that we could put tables back in there, and the food service folks came right in, started cooking, and the children were served the meals in their classroom. So that was great. At the same time, we had an issue at Uncas Elementary School. As soon as I made the announcement thanking everyone for their patience and cooperation amongst the students and staff, we got a call from Uncas that they had lost about a third to a quarter of their power in the building, and there was this strange odor. It seems that a squirrel had a little accident with the transformer and met his demise. And it had an effect on the power, and that the vents were bringing the odor into the school. NPU responded right away, said that it's not in the school, it's something outside of the school. There was not a reason to evacuate. They got that taken care of quite quickly. It was an eventful day, but everyone teaching and learning went on. Our staff is miraculous. Our children are flexible and wonderful, and so we did fine. I will say personally, I was not sad that it started to snow the morning, but I hope that the children and families and teachers enjoyed the snow day, because they certainly deserved it.
Anything else? Thank you, Dr. Stringfellow. Report of the Assistant Superintendent.
Good evening. We continue to monitor our students who are experiencing homelessness. There was a change of an addition of 7 students experiencing homelessness. At this time, we haven't had anyone move out of Norwich during the month. Including attendance, jumping down to attendance. We've also continued to monitor with COVID and everything that's happening. Our staff are doing the very best they can to continue to engage families, monitor, and report out on attendance. In addition to that, we are continuing to obviously monitor our discipline. We have revised our discipline referral form that our classroom teachers and our staff complete to include like taunting and confrontation, those minor behaviors that tend to trigger the bigger behaviors. So we're trying to monitor that so we can be actionable and inform our decisions about how to address and to help and support and educate our students. Then we have, just wanted to share with you, we have a few parent engagement events that are happening across the district as well as, and then in addition to that, there are a few grants that we did apply for. One being the FRC ESSER grant to run FRC summer school programming for early childhood. Another one was the Consolidated Title III grant. And then also the Rescue Alliance Minority Teacher Recruitment Grant to help support that initiative. With regards to academics, our coaches, our staff, everyone is pitching in to help support and continue the learning for students as we're addressing, the absences that are taking place in the building that Dr. Stringfellow referred to. Back in December, we had a visit from CSDE to kind of observe our math instruction. And so she left us with some 4 areas in which to focus in on, which was building content knowledge of teachers, objectives and alignment of lesson activities, purposeful grouping, and vocabulary. And then with regards to professional development, we participate in the Connecticut TRP program, which is for diversifying the educator workforce. We have 3 candidates that's working with us, and they will be taking the Foundation of Reading survey in January, where our staff will be taking it sometime in March at our March PD.
Christine D'Estasio. So you're saying that we have 3 candidates?
Correct.
that have to take that Foundations of Reading?
Correct,
For
as,
POP.
right, correct, as a part of their course requirement.
Very good. And who was the person that visited regarding math?
So it was Jen Michalek. She is the math consultant for CSDE.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And that concludes my report, if there are any other questions.
Kevin?
Kevin Saitani. Thank you, Tamara, for the report. Under academics, I do have a question regarding the math visits. Can you be able to briefly go over how those 4 areas will be implemented in Norwich Public Schools?
Sure. So we're looking to, we have our coaches as embedded classroom professional development, number 1. Number 2, we're looking to align our professional development opportunities. So like our PD that's happening February 23rd, and our professional development that's happening in March, and as well as in May, to align to those same, goals and opportunities that have been identified by CSDE.
Is there anyone else? Thank you, Tamara. All right, let's have a report from the Director of Student Services, please.
Good evening, everyone. I know that you received my report, and I started out with a little bit more in-depth of enrollment. Typically, I just kind of share our monthly out-of-district report, but in January, I like to share like where we're at for how many students that we have enrolled in our pre-K to 8th grade, as well as I thought it was important for you to see the trend for students that are leaving Norwich, withdrawing, moving to other locations. We do have our unofficial October 1 count. Our October 1 count really dictates a lot of things that that occur in our district, including all of my performance ratings. It also is the number that is used for our IDEA grants every year. So that unofficial count right now is 965. We'll be getting the certified accounting later on this year. I also provided the history of our enrollment over time.
Okay.
There we go. Now you can hear me. The history of the enrollment over time. And then I thought it was also important to look at our out-of-district numbers. As you recall, last year, our previous board members and for our new board members, one of our strategies was to have additional administrative support so that we can really take a look at having our students return from outplacements. Last year, we were able to have 7 students return, had some really tremendous success with some of our students that were able to come back. And then this year, we've already had 5 students return on top of that. So I gave you an estimated tuition savings, but as you know, there are a lot of other associated costs with that, related services, transportation, and then there's the overall more important notion of this, in that our students can be educated with their peers in their community schools. So just wanted to give you a little bit of a snapshot with that, as well as the trend of our outplacements over time. As you know, a lot of our work is all steeped in very orchestrated meetings. So far to date, we've held over 1,000 PPTs in our schools, and that obviously will continue throughout the year. But every time we have a meeting, there's a ton of work that's associated with those meetings and a lot of staff that's involved, just so you have a sense of that. I also included some indicators for our state reporting in there. I mean, I'm measured on evaluation timeline compliance, and this year, at 2021, we were at 100%. So that's a good one for us. And then our early childhood outcome summary, which is indicator 11, and You can see in the table that we have our district and we're compared at the state level. In 2021, we dropped a bit from the year previous, and we can make assumptions that the pandemic really impacted our younger learners, and being able to show that the acquisition and knowledge, use of skills. When we're taking a look at that, we're really looking at how students can utilize certain skills with their peers. We're looking at with positive and social emotional skills. We're looking at how they develop friendships, understanding routines, and understanding social situations. And as you can imagine, when students aren't in school or we're having limited interactions with each other, those skills are going to not be as positively seen over time. So we're going to continue to work on that. And then we are also looking at the students with disabilities that are educated with their peers. We know that we get the best outcome when they're in the general ed setting, to the extent that is appropriate. And so we take a look at that measurement, and we're also assessed on that. So any questions about information I included in my report? Okay, thank you.
Any questions from the board? Hearing none? Thanks, Jamie. The next report we're going to hear is from the business administrator, Bob.
Good evening. There are several administrative reports in there from all of the business areas, so I won't go into detail on those. I was going to cover in more detail the incidents at Uncas and Veterans, but the superintendent already did those, so I won't.
She did a great job, too.
She did a great job, though. I will say, though, I want to give a shout out to the fire department and kitchen staff and the principal. It was when I first arrived there, I didn't think there was any way students would be allowed back in school, but it took an hour and a half, and everybody did a great job.
And the custodial staff and
Yeah,
maintenance
it was
folks,
amazing.
everybody was wonderful.
I did file a notice with the insurance company, Kermer. We do have a $5,000 deductible. I don't think the damage will be anywhere near that. The only monetary damage should be repair to the sprinkler system. And as far as the incident at Uncas, that was an outside pole issue. There was no damage to our motors or anything like that, so that had a happy ending. One of the issues in our food service department that continues to plague them, and they're doing an outstanding job, is the supply chain. Everyone shops in the store. We know the shortages that exist. It seems they have to change the menu constantly based on the product that is available. So that continues to be a challenge. This week, the federal government did announce that reimbursements would increase by 25 cents a meal, so that should help the program. I'm not sure when that'll start exactly. I haven't seen an official bulletin yet. It was just on the news. So the other thing on the drill evacuation at Veterans, we always practice our drills, but when the real thing happens, it's never the same. So it was, we don't practice a flood with a principal who's recovering from surgery and is hopping around on one leg on a scooter. And it was just amazing to see it go so smoothly. Into the business area, I don't have any real concerns.
May I follow up on that for just a
Yes.
minute to say that the students that I know of have not gone to that evacuation site with a real issue that was happening. They were just so wonderful and cooperative and, listened to their teachers and were, safe. And it was great to see. It was, I did hear some entertaining stories about the principal who was about to take off in his scooter because he had me on one phone and the walkie-talkie on the other, but he's safe thanks to Betsy Adams. And Tamara, was also at the scene with us. I sent her with Adam to the evacuation area so that Bob and I could assess the damage and message the parents. But Tamara went on every bus along with all of our wonderful staff members that were there, just to let staff and kids know what was going on, that it's just water. We hope to be back. You might be going home. And our parents were great. They were listening to us, calling with really great support. And Jamie managed the entire rest of the school department, which
And
was awesome.
our
So,
transportation director immediately contacted the buses, and we didn't know if it was for them to have shelter to stay warm or if school would be canceled, and they got there so fast. It was everything. And watching the cleanup, I think Scott Merchant was the battalion chief from the fire department, and he was in charge.
Yeah.
Yep.
You would have thought that the fire department, school staff, and maintenance were a cleanup crew from Service Master or
one
something.
team, agreed.
They just, everybody knew what to do, and I was just amazed to be, and it was great to be part of that process, and everybody did their part, and it just flowed.
When I
So-
first got there, it looked like an early scene from Titanic. And within about, I would say, 20 to 30 minutes, Bob began to smile a little bit, and the battalion chief said, "Oh, no, kids will come back. Give us a couple of minutes." It was very comforting to know that our kids and our teachers and staff were in good hands, so.
That's
So
great.
no damage to the floors then?
Now, fortunately, probably 95% of the water was on tiled areas. So if you're familiar with the school, the library is carpeted, but maybe the first 2 feet got wet on each doorway. So our maintenance crew did use a carpet extractor and clean and disinfect the carpet, and it's dried. And they do that on an annual basis, so we will monitor it. And if we think there's an issue with mold, mystic air will be brought in to either remediate it or test it. So it was almost all tile, so it was just dispersed. Actually, most of the water was pushed out one of the middle hallway doors. It was like a flood going out just the way it came in.
Matt Brown and his team came in, so they weren't just custodial staff from veterans, they were custodial staff from everywhere that came to help. Matt Wazika and his team came in. It was an all hands on deck, and it's just like magic. They appear when they're needed, which is all you can ever ask for.
And Matt inspected there was no damage or water damage to any of the IT equipment, so all things considered, it could have been a whole lot worse.
It could have been.
I think some of the teacher or student belongings, some got wet, and that may be entered into so if you're a teacher and you didn't hear this from anybody yet, and if you have some damage, please call Bob. But largely, we're lucky.
It's also a tribute to the staff and faculty at Veterans, the way they run those drills. And they do those drills for a reason, and it certainly appears that the drills are working quite well.
Well, and they're highly competent, trusted staff. And
Oh, yeah.
so when I got on the buses, when we were receiving the children back, you would imagine people would be worried. Kids would be worried, staff would be worried. They were calm as cucumbers. They were, because their teachers were giving them information and making sure they were okay. Their support staff were there on the buses. It was great. We're lucky. I keep saying the same thing, but we have great staff. And everybody came together, and then I couldn't believe when I got the next call from Uncas. I was waiting for locusts to invade my hand. It was strange timing. Bob, you had other things? that you
Yes,
wanted
on
to
the financial side, the 2021 audit was completed. Both the school district and the city used the same auditor and audit firm, and that was submitted on January 3rd. Right now, both the city and my office are reviewing the final documentation. Our 2021 budget is still trending favorably, so I don't have any major concerns with that. I did meet today with Norwich Public Utilities regarding the 22-23 budget in terms of gas, electricity, sewer, and water projections. So that process is moving along nicely. And I know we have set our committee meetings for to start the end of January, and we will be ready for that. So that would conclude my narrative, verbal portion of the report.
Any questions from the board? Christine?
Christine D'Estasio. I don't know if this is working, but A question regarding the bus incidents we had where there were fender benders, et cetera. I think there was at least a couple in the last month where there were slight accidents involving buses. And I was just wondering, who is at fault in those?
I'm not familiar with the exact details. I'd have to follow up with our transportation director, and I can
Yeah, I'm
email
just
the board
curious,
chair with that.
Because I know they've been so short-staffed, and I'm wondering, are these people getting enough training? Because it just seems odd, but
I'll follow up with
I know
that.
with all the other stresses that, could be contributing, thank goodness no students were harmed. But I'm just curious about that. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. That concludes the reports. Next item of business, new business. And it's indicated here on here. Discussion and possible action regarding reinstating the middle school resource officers. Now, it's been quite a few years since, it's been a little while since we've had our SROs back in our schools. Given the climate of our schools, given the pandemic, given the totality of everything that's going on in our world today, and in light of what is perceived, the SROs belong back in our schools, our middle schools. That's why I believe that's where they belong, is in our middle schools. And I have spoken with Dr. Stringfellow about this. I've gotten calls about the school safety, and our concern is for students, staff, faculty, to be able to come to work, come to school, and feel safe to the best of everyone's ability. Hiring retired people to come in as security guards, security officers, I don't think that's not going to really quell or handle the situation. I believe that trained police officers who know how to handle a situation, who are trained in a multitude of tasks, belong back in our schools. And I'm asking that Dr. Stringfellow look into this request, meet with our police chief, and see if we can't come to some type of amicable agreement.
Joshua Chapman, I would like to second Robert Aldy's motion. I believe
It's not a motion.
It's not a motion.
It's not a motion, Josh.
I can put it as a motion, and then if you want, you can second it. So I'll make the motion to direct the superintendent to meet with the Norwich Police Chief no later than Friday, January 21st, 2022, to begin the process of reinstating a school resource officer in each Norwich Public Middle School, effective immediately, giving staffing and whatnot, and that, according to her discussions with the police chief.
so. Now I'll go ahead and second that motion, and I just wanted to add in as well that
Hold on for a minute, Josh, okay?
Yeah.
We have a motion on the floor to authorize Dr. Stringfellow to engage in conversation with our police chief to reinstate the SROs in the middle schools of our community. We have a second by Josh Chapman. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Josh.
I just wanted to add that not only as a safety issue, but also as a help to, I know there's a lot of great officers out there, and I know a few Norwich officers personally, and I think it would be good to build relationships and trust with the police department in the community as well.
Any other further discussion? Kevin?
Kevin Satani speaking. Yeah, I think it's a great idea to reinstate the SOR because in general, this will bring back the faith from the public in our public schools when they know that there will be somebody, a guardian, for our students and teachers in the Norwich Public Schools, so that whenever there's any negativity or any issues, that'll be, somebody will be there to, be there to intervene and to situate the problems at hand. And I think overall, the people would appreciate, the Board of Education doing something about what's happening in our schools.
The school resource officer is a program that was never, when I was on the job, we didn't have we didn't have SROs. We had the DARE program. And the DARE program, they were highly trained officers who went into the schools and taught the drug awareness and retention education. And they developed quite a rapport, not only with the students, but they developed quite a rapport with the faculty and the staff. And it was a feel-good type of situation, and the kids and the faculty and staff knew they can go to that officer if they had something, to say to them. Same thing goes with the SRO program. The SRO program, in my opinion, is a very valuable tool in education because it also gives it's a source for the child, for the parent, for the teacher, and for the staff to go to if they feel they have an issue that they want to discuss with him or her. And it's the cost factor you can't outweigh the efforts or hopefully significant help that they can do for our kids and for our middle school staff and faculty. The climate we have today nowadays is a lot different than it was 2 years ago, and I don't see it getting any better. So let's try to nip it in the bud as quickly as we can. Is there any other further discussion? Christine?
I just wanted to express my support for reinstating the SRO program. As you said, the benefits far outweigh the cost, and I think it's an essential position at this time in our society, and especially being role models for our students, and as you said, they're being a resource for everyone within the school system. So that's it. Thank you.
Any other further discussion? Carlene?
Thank you. I do agree that we need to have additional safety provided within the school system for our students as well as our staff. Safety is a priority for me as well. I would like to know a little bit more in terms of like what the actual role these SROs would be playing within the middle schools. I know a couple of months ago, Tamara reported on the different behavioral issues, and as you guys had noted, a lot of the behavioral issues are coming from, I'm not stating this accurately, so minority students who are minorities. So I just want to know, I would want to know what the impact might be to minority students who are in the schools who tend to have a higher increase in behavioral issues. And I would really like to know that information a little bit more before. And I'm hearing you all in terms of like the cost, but I am a little concerned about the impact that might have on students. And it's a big concern in terms of like the school to prison pipeline for me. And so that's what I would like to know more before. I'm in agreement with you starting that conversation, but I would like to know a little bit more information before we fully implement this in the school system.
That's a good point. I will say that just like the DARE program, I'm quite sure that the school resource officer program is taught by post-certified and accredited teachers up at the police academy, and that they're not just told, hey, Joe, you're going to go up to Kelly, and Bob, you're going to, or Karen, you're going to go to global studies. These are hand-picked officers that will get the proper training in a multitude of factions. And but you're right. You are correct that it'll hit every button and every check mark that I believe you just mentioned. Any other further discussion? Mark?
I just want to comment that I sit on the disciplinary committee, and unfortunately, since the start of school, we've had several incidents of discipline problems, practically all from the middle schools, much more than we've had in the past. And I believe this would be a huge asset, for students, if they feel that someone is acting unsafe in school, and especially with these TikTok challenges, which are driving every school system to distraction. I mean, it's just insane. And hopefully there'll be an asset to the schools where the kids can learn from the officers, and hopefully there's interaction between themselves and the officers so that they can learn get some proper guidance as to what proper behavior is. And as a matter of fact, I believe we have a disciplinary hearing tomorrow. So, it's just continuous, unfortunately. I'm all in favor of the SROs.
Is there any further discussion? Greg?
Yeah, Greg Perry. For me, on this topic, the devil is absolutely in the details. I am not in full support of SROs unless I know how this plan is going to be carried out, what the job description is going to be for them, what their responsibilities are, where they're going to be, what they're going to be doing, because I also have many concerns about how the SROs are going to be working with the students, and when. Are they simply reacting to issues that are happening? Are we going to have more of a mentoring program and relationship? It's not that I am against having the officers in schools, but how this occurs and how this is laid out makes a big difference for me.
And that's a good point. It's a statewide or nationwide program, so I'm sure that that will come to light. It's not like we never had SROs before in the past. I want to get them back into our schools. That's all. And the programs that they had in the past surely worked wonders. So, yes, I'm sure that those answers, those questions can be answered. Anything else? We have a motion on the floor. We have a second. All those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimous. All right. Moving on. Committee reports.
No, unfinished business.
Oh, I apologize. I went, this wheels. All right, unfinished business. We have two items on unfinished business that were prolonged to tonight's meeting. Number one, discussion, possible action regarding policy number 5131.08, and that was the bully prevention and intervention policy draft. Everybody have a chance to read it now? Are there any further questions concerning this policy?
Okay, I make the motion that we put the motion back on the table and to approve the updates to policy 5131.08, the bully prevention and intervention and policy.
You have a motion on the floor to put it back onto the table for a vote. And a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
No. Motion for the actual,
Okay, and then I'll make the motion that we actually pass. Motion to approve the updates to the policy 5131.08.
there's been a motion to approve 513108 bully prevention and intervention policy draft. Second? Second by Kevin Satani. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Motion passed. Discussion on the possible action regarding policy 513108.1, safe school climate, the plan and the draft updates. This one is also postponed until tonight's meeting for the actual reading of the policy for all the new members. Has everybody read it?
Okay, I make the motion that we put back on the table the motion to approve the updates to policy 5131.08.1.
Motion on the floor. I need a second. Second by Josh Chapman. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous vote.
And now we'll make the motion to approve the updates to policy 5131.08.1.
And the motion's on the floor to approve the policy. Second by Josh Chapman. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Unanimous. So voted. Thank you. Committee reports.
If I may just make a comment, Mr. Chair, due to the holidays of last month and the fact that we were a newly constituted board, not yet with our assignments, I don't believe any of the subcommittees other than discipline met during the interim. So there would be no reports.
Moving on. Board reports. Are there any board reports? Hearing none. Are there any questions on the additional reports to our agenda? Year-to-date budget report, enrollment, and/or personnel report? None? I will entertain a motion for adjournment. I need a motion for adjournment.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Motion by Greg Perry to adjourn, second by Josh Chapman. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm sorry?
Thanks for bringing the little ones. Listening to them was great. I didn't have a choice.
That's great. No, we love it.